Welcome back to Fold in the Cheese. It is your boy K-Troll on the mic today, and we are one step closer to the big game. And in fact, the big game we're talking about is the Flag Football Pro Bowl this weekend. Obviously, it's going to be exciting. We've got lots of prop bets for that. Fantasy implications galore. I am joined as always by Just E.
Just E. You know, as we were talking about off camera, had to update my Chrome browser. All my buttons got lost. My cache, whatever it's called. GIF. So yeah, I just went with E today because it used to be preloaded E-money. Didn't have the time for the dollar sign.
Yeah.
Going with D.
Didn't have your shortcuts set up. No, in very similar fashion, my father-in-law showed up to our house today, and he had printed an email that he wanted me to hang on to. I was like, I've got an electronic copy of this, but thank you.
But I appreciate the paper copy.
I've got it right here.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Color copy too. That's good.
It's colored. Yeah, they used a lot of ink on that. So
yeah,
I don't think
he cares if he's using color ink to print out the email.
Probably doesn't realize you can grayscale.
Yes. I'm also feeling like a new person. I know I posted this on Instagram showing my children when they were getting ready for the Lions game. You know, we made cupcakes. They were doing blue and white. Great time. But my son was wearing a specific shirt, which will be a future pool boy shirt. And I have the same one.
You have the same one. I was looking at that and I was like, that looks like pool child, junior pool boy, Brady's shirt.
So yes, I'm giving it a shot today for all our viewers. My parents actually just came back from Hawaii visiting my mom's brother who's living out there. And so Brady and I both got matching shirts, and Addison and Kirsten got matching dresses. So you know, nice. Brady loved it and wanted to just wear it right away. He's like, Dad, you wear yours today. So I'm behind the camera in that shot. So I am actually wearing the same shirt.
Nice.
I figured no one wanted to see that. They wanted to see cute kids making cupcakes.
You got your ears lowered too.
Let's give it a go today. You can't see the detail, but these are all little fish. They're all teeny little fish. You can kind of see the waves going.
Complicated patterns. That's how you know it's expensive. Yeah. I'm just,
yes, you do.
I
got a new haircut. I told Mr. Rob today or yesterday morning. I was like, my wife just said, do whatever you feel like, because I'm done with it. It's disappearing.
She has given up on your hair.
So he went short, which, you know, I'm all about trying something new. And so here we go. New shirt, new cut. Big day.
He's a new man. Yeah. I need a cut desperately. I've got a shag going on right now, so I need a cut. And otherwise, I'm pretty much the same as I was last week. So no real updates here. No updates for everyone.
Okay, fair.
But it's good. We're going to go over today. We're going to go over our prop bets. We're going to go over the fantasy playoffs contest that we have created.
All getting dicey, which I love. They're all super close.
Very spicy. It's going to be really good. But we ought to go over the games that happened this past weekend as well, right? Obviously, we had the AFC and NFC championship games, both great games for different reasons. Obviously, a defensive battle in the AFC championship, which we kind of predicted, and a shootout of sorts in the NFC championship. So what's your overall take? I mean, we get the Chiefs, of course. You cannot knock these people out in the playoffs. I don't know what it's going to take, but Mahomes finds a way with the worst offense he's had, and he still gets there. And,
I mean, as our mini text chain between you, me, and Drader, you know, the Chiefs are this edition of the Patriots in the sense that if they are in the playoffs and Tom Brady is your quarterback or Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you can never count them out. You know, this is the worst offense of his career. This is, you know, he might have had a down year by all sorts of measures, but it doesn't matter. He's still your guy. He's still that guy who can make that difference, who can make up for any inadequacies of his receiving core or you know, his running game was solid. Pacheco's been solid all year.
Yep.
But, I mean, one of the strongest defenses had all career. So if he's there, there's always a chance. You always have a chance. Doesn't matter if you're on the road, if you're at home. If Mahomes is on the opposing sideline, you're in trouble. And even Lamar Jackson said that, you know, prior to the game leading up. He's like, man, I hate it. I don't want to go against this guy. You know, he's being completely honest. I give him props for that because he's saying what everyone's thinking. Like, yeah, I don't want to play against this guy. And it showed.
Yeah.
So I'll let you.
Here's something you don't hear. You don't hear Patrick Mahomes saying, man, I really didn't want to play against Lamar Jackson.
He don't care.
Man, I didn't really want to play against Joe Burrow. Man, I didn't really want to play against Matthew Stafford.
Whoever it is. Buffalo. I didn't want to. It don't matter.
You don't ever hear that from him, and that's why he's the best. That's why he is number one, because number one's not worried about number two. Number one is only looking forward. Everyone else is looking at him. And that's, I mean, it just sets him on a completely different stage. And I think Brady was the same way. And I mean, the parallels are incredible. The style of play is quite different, but the leadership, the passion, that's
just
the same.
mindset. The mindset
is there.
I mean, it's competitors. It's that same kind of Jordan mindset. I know we've talked about The Last Dance and how he would literally create bulletin board material for himself. I remember
that guy was shit talking me, and the guy's like,
exactly. The guy's like, I didn't say
I said nothing.
It's like, oh, but in my head you did, so I'm gonna get you.
Oh my god, that makes me think of very quickly. I'm gonna slide in an anecdote from my basketball session yesterday where I was guarding, like, because of like a rebound that got loose and the guy made it into the corner. I was guarding this dude who's just dominates. Rich. This guy dominates.
Oh, Rich is a beast. I have played with Rich.
Rich is a freaking beast. Okay. He shoots from like back here. He makes every shot he takes. He has these crazy, like near the hoop. He has these crazy angles and he knows how to make these crazy hook and bank shots. It's insane. He's unguardable. He's quick. He's long. I mean, he's got great sense of the
also
court
super
area.
Nice dude.
Like, he's a great guy. He's like 45, but he's so good. Anyway, so there's a loose ball. He gets the rebound. He's in the corner, and I had to pick him up because I'm out there. And I was like, I'm basically all up on him. And he and I've like, he's very nice to me. He knows my role. And so of course I like kiss the ring with Rich because he's such a baller. And I'm like, don't shoot this over me, Rich. Do not shoot this over me right now. And I'm like in his face, and he just goes whoop whoop, and just right on the top of me. I'm just like, God. I feel like that's what the guy who was quote unquote shit talking Jordan was like, I didn't say anything. Please don't score 45 on me in the second half.
Please,
okay, well,
please
there it goes. There it goes.
Please don't. Yes. So yeah, I mean, maybe Justin Tucker was giving him that bulletin board material and he was warming up, but that was
he wasn't doing anything.
I know he didn't do anything wrong.
Just chucked it. And he was like, "Yo, come on, man."
Right. So anyway, just real quick going into the game. I mean, the Ravens just completely abandoned what got them there on offense. They ran the ball 6 times with their running backs. And I know they're on their 3rd and 4th string running backs with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, but they got them there. Like Gus Edwards was a touchdown machine. Justice Hill was completely capable back there. And even with Lamar, they didn't run him at all. They made him into a pocket passer, which is not his game. And clearly that was evident. But so, I mean, once again, it just showed the Chiefs on offense doing enough to win and their defense really setting the tone and saying, hey, we need some attention too. It's not just Patrick Mahomes doing all the things. We're doing a lot of it too. So it's just showing a complete team that the Chiefs are and can just get it done gross. They can beat you when they need to, but they can win those close ones. And it's scary.
They can shoot it out if they have to somehow. I don't know how they shoot it out with those receivers, but at the same time, like MVS was making some clutch catches and you're like, where was that earlier in the season?
Classic MVS, one reception, 30 yards. That was it. And it was the biggest catch of the game for him. It was to seal the game at the end. So,
yeah, they could have. It just makes you realize like they could have been freaking undefeated this year if that kind of stuff just hadn't been happening.
Well, and this is
they're not even that dynamic.
And I know there are tons of variables going into each and every game every Sunday, but clearly they made it an effort to get Travis Kelce the ball. He had 11 catches, over 100 yards, a touchdown, but it just goes to show like why, and this is why I would get pissed off at Chris Paul at Wake. Like, why don't you just do that every time? Like, why wouldn't you? So like Chris had a great career at Wake, only 2 years, but then he gets the NBA, takes over even more, does even more. I'm like, why didn't you do the same thing down there? So
he averaged like 15 points at Wake, and you're like, I saw you drop 40 on somebody without batting an eye. Like anytime you wanted to. Like, where was that?
So it's just kind of like, why? There would be games where Travis had 3 catches for 40 yards, 5 for 50 or something like that. And here it's like, nope, we're just going to force feed him every time and it's going to work great. So, okay.
It's a matchup nightmare.
I know there's just tons of other variables with schemes, or maybe they're letting him go off just to contain everybody else, but whatever. Just wild.
It is wild. And to your point, though, about Lamar, I wanted to backtrack on that because that's one of our prop bets was about what's going to be the lowest number. Combined rushes by Lamar and what was it?
Goff interceptions and TDs.
Goff interceptions and touchdowns, right? And I was like, well, Lamar, if they're playing their game, Lamar should have 15 carries, by himself. He should have 15 carries. For him to have 8 is like inexcusable. And that includes scrambles when he just happened to run. Like, not to mention like the designed runs. I saw almost none of the designed read option runs. Like where was that offense? Odell Beckham, another prop that we had. When's he going to get his first catch?
Fourth quarter.
He got 3 passes in one drive, and I was like, that was effective. I'm not saying he's the best player in the team, but like, get him involved. Like, you spread the ball around to different players. Like, I don't know. Mark Andrews is in there playing his butt off, like broken fibula or whatever the hell he had. Like, incredible that he's even in the game. But I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking when they got there. But I think number one, they were psyched out of their minds immediately. Yeah. As soon as they showed up on the field, it was kind of over. And number two, it just was like, that's not the team that has been so dominant this year.
So dominant. But hey,
kudos to the Chiefs, though, man.
Kudos to them. They went out and won it. The Ravens just didn't show up, and it's unfortunate.
I want to in each of these games, I want to flash forward to next season and talk about the fantasy impact of some of these players. Okay, so this is a fantasy show, even though it was playoffs, so we don't have a whole lot to talk about. I do want to talk about some of the players on these two teams, and then we'll do the same with the NFC. I want to talk about specifically number one, Travis Kelce. Is he coming back? Apparently there was legitimately a bet in the Canadian sports books that he's going to propose to Taylor Swift after the game on the field or something. Let me tell you, I don't see that happening.
Well, wasn't that one of the things that they thought he was whispering to Taylor at the end, like Super Bowl wedding or something like that?
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah, but is she going to make it back from Tokyo? We don't know.
Yeah, I got a feeling she will.
One, is Kelce going to retire?
Is he going to retire?
If they win, I think it's a higher chance. I think it put it at maybe like a 45%. If they lose, no, I don't think so.
No,
I can see him being a guy going out on top. I just think he's accomplished everything he needs to. Why not just be like, yep, I'm the greatest. I did everything, and now kablam, I did the last thing. I'm not saying if he wins, that he will retire, but I'm just saying it's a higher chance if they do win that he would.
The one thing you think about with retiring on a high note is there anything more I could have maybe squeezed it? Like, could we have back-to-backed it on my way out? John Elway is like, okay, you won it. And it's like, let's try it one more time. I think we can do one more. And then
then that's always the tragic flaw. Tom Brady.
Oftentimes, yeah.
I'm going to come back for one more. Ruin my life. 1 year worse.
Ruin my family away and
ruin my real life. Jason Kelce, makes it to the Super Bowl playing against your brother. Great game. They didn't win, but he's like, I'll come back for one more. Incredibly disappointing season. Now, if he retires this year, it's like, dang, that kind of sucks. That's a bummer way to go out.
He still was the impetus of one of the most infamous plays in the NFL with the tush push. Like, that is him. I don't know. He's got that going for him. If they take that rule away, he's like, take it away.
Well, but at the same time, he hates that play. You know what he says every time they
my gosh.
F my life.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure he hates that play. It's just an immediate dog pile, and guys are literally diving in head first to try and do anything to stop it, and they're diving right at him. He must hate that.
So I think you watched it. I just started watching the Kelce documentary about him, and not this season, but the past season. Really good. I'm about 30-ish minutes in, and it's great.
I've not seen it. No, I haven't.
It's really good. You should start it.
I will check it out.
Catch up to me. Catch up.
I will check it out. So anyway, Kelce, we're saying wild card. I agree with you. Like, I think I'm kind of at 50-50 on him, honestly, on either way, him coming back or not coming back. He's accomplished everything he needs to accomplish. I don't know what records are still out there for him. If that's something he wants to chase, maybe, but I don't think he really cares.
Well, the wildest one is that he just passed Jerry Rice for most postseason receptions. Wild.
That is insane. That isn't anytime you pass Jerry Rice in anything, it's a big deal. Yeah. So he's obviously a wild card. If he does come back, I think he slots right back into where he's been forever. He's a rock solid, one of the only tight ends you can count on every week.
Crazy he finished.
Rashee Rice. That's the name I'm interested in. Rashee Rice. He's a rookie.
We've talked about him.
He's kind of turned into the go-to for Mahomes. What do you think next year?
I love him. I mean, we've talked about him all year. Again, he was an early season pickup for me just because I needed someone that week. I'm like, I'm going to hold on to this guy. It's clearly shown he is the number one. I mean, him and Kelce kind of 1A, 1B right now. I do think in the offseason, win or lose the Super Bowl, they're going to go after a wide receiver. Because if they don't, that's just shame on them for not literally hitting the one position they need. So if they do go after a bigger name, I don't know who that might be. I guess maybe if they went for like a Mike Evans, holy crap. I think maybe
Higgins, Michael Pittman, Tyler Boyd.
Yeah. If they go after any of those guys,
Keenan Allen,
his value will diminish a little bit, but he's still the young guy. He's been the proven guy for Mahomes this year. I think he's going to step right back into wide receiver 1 on the Chiefs. So I love him. He's been spectacular. I know you're going after an autograph card of his, so I think you're going to pick him in the first round.
Absolutely.
What about you?
Not to make this like a direct 1-for-1 comparison, but his situation reminds me of Devontae Adams when he was on Green Bay and he was like the number 3 receiver. Showed flashes. There was chemistry there with Rodgers, and you're kind of like, the Packers grabbed another young receiver. We'll see what happens. And then as the season kind of went on, and maybe it was the second or third season, honestly, with Adams, but similar thing where like as the season went on, you're kind of like, okay, this guy's actually kind of popping off. And they had Jordy Nelson at the time, and maybe even Greg Jennings. Like it was a pretty stacked receiver room, but they were getting older. And you're kind of like, okay, this guy's going to take it off. And all of a sudden it was like, that's our guy. And I'm curious to see if that happens with Rashee. And I do think it matters who they pick up in the offseason. Because if they bring in someone like T. Higgins is a dominator, man. Like he can be your number 1, even though he's been a 2 behind Chase. Like that would be interesting to me. That would hurt his value a little bit. What Kelsey does matter.
Kelsey, right. Assuming Kelsey comes back, if they do get like a T. Higgins, yes. Because then you have 3 alphas, 3 guys who are essentially number 1s. If let's say Kelsey retires, I still think there are enough mouths to feed between Rashee and T. Higgins. I mean, he showed in Cincinnati. T. Higgins still Jamar. Rashee is going to be a stud. And
consistency becomes a problem when you have 2 stars, though.
It does,
because you tend to have a guy who take a week off here and there.
He has Mahomes' trust. I mean, he's literally his only outlet, and he knows it. And as a rookie, to already get that, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. What do you think about? And I think this guy will, assuming they make a move this offseason, but if they don't, this guy is kind of turned into a little bit more of a trustworthy target. Justin Watson, a little more trustworthy. He doesn't run the best routes, in my opinion, but his hands are pretty good for the most part. He doesn't have that instinct to like come back to the ball and make sure the defender doesn't get it, Yeah. But he's semi-reliable. Do you think he's a name to remember for next year at all?
He could be your 8th rounder, 9th rounder. That makes that difference. When you get the 8th rounder, that's where you get your steals. That's where you get the guys who you don't really think about in the beginning. It's like, I'll take a flyer on this guy. That's where you would find a Justin Watson. I don't think he's earned anything higher than that. You said what? You said 12?
I think he's like a 12th round type. But the question is like, if he's technically their number 2 or their slot, is there maybe value there? I don't know.
I don't think so. I just don't think he's earned it yet. And he hasn't shown enough. And especially if they're going to go after another guy, then you're 3rd, 4th on the mouths to feed. No.
Yep. Okay, let's switch over to Baltimore then. Assuming Odell comes back and was not super relevant in fantasy, not really worth mentioning. Zay Flowers is a big name. Zay Flowers is their new number 1 receiver. Showed flashes, obviously kind of popped off in this game, had that weird fumble at the end zone, which sucked. But what did you see this year from him and what do you think you can project going forward?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little surprised by him. I didn't expect him to do as well as he did, especially coming out of Boston College, not really known for their wide receiving core. They're definitely running backs and quarterbacks, Matt Ryan. But so I was a little surprised. And honestly, I have also was one who always questioned Lamar's throwing. And so the half of the season he did, it wasn't like show stopping, but he had a very relatively consistent year and put up decent numbers. Because again, he wasn't getting drafted top 4 rounds. So you probably got him in the 8th, 9th in that range. Yeah. So for that, it's a great value. I think he might have the Jalen Waddle effect where all of a sudden his stock is going to go too high for where he's getting drafted. Don't get me wrong. Jalen Waddle, spectacular player, but he was getting drafted too high. And it showed this year that wasn't worth the value of where he got drafted. I think the same thing could happen to Zay Flowers, showing that promise, showing he is the number 1 guy, going to get drafted too high for the value. So that's what I think is going to be his problem, is that the value won't be where he's drafted.
Yeah, I could see him going in like the 5th round next year, and I think he probably should stay in that 6th, 7th round. I mean, I guess he's the number. I mean, you got Mark Andrews though, but I guess he's a number 1 receiver for sure. But he's kind of 1B to Mark Andrews, who I think that offense runs through, and it's such a run heavy offense too. Like,
right,
it's not uncommon like he did here. It was like 4 for 110 or something. That's kind of like what his games are going to look like. Not that he's like a burner necessarily, but he does get chunk plays. If he's a 4 for 110 guy and that 4 ends up being 30 instead, you're in trouble. I like high volume guys if I'm going PPR,
Yes.
And he didn't have that many games where he's like 10 targets. There's just not.
And
really
I know it's probably not fair to compare Rashee Rice with Zay Flowers because different offenses, as you just said, it's a very run heavy in Baltimore. But with Rashee, as you just talked about, he was getting that volume. He was getting 8 catches a game. And it could have been only for 70, 80, 90 yards. But in PPR, boom, that's 16 points right there. 7 catches for 90. Like, that's the volume you're talking about. It's more consistent. You know what you're going to get. And that's why, like, for him, Rashee became my full-time starter basically halfway through the year because I was I can't not start this guy. I know he's always going to get me at least 13, 14 points based on, I'm like, yeah, you're in. And he had one of the best like finishes in the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Sorry.
That's what you look for in rookie receivers because that tends to parlay into the next year. That tends to like the best ones usually come on strong in the second half of the year. I mean, obviously if you start dominating day one, that's great, but like not that common, but the good wide receivers rookie class that you want to look at are the guys that really started to pour it on the last 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. They finally figured out the speed of the game, the workout routines. They've gotten on the same page. They've learned the playbook really well, chemistry, the quarterback, audibles, all that kind of stuff. That's when you start to really see them separate. So I agree.
Also, shout out to Doug Baldwin, who had one of the best second halves of a year ever. And back in 2015, where I raised the championship belt, I think we talked about him a few years back, or a few episodes back, when we were reminiscing of teams of yore. And Doug Baldwin was that guy.
Doug Baldwin is in my fantasy Hall of Fame for some of my all-time favorite players to ever own. Jamal Charles was like my number one. I loved Jamal Charles.
Yes.
And Larry Johnson before him.
I beat you to it, Larry Johnson.
Yeah. And Priest Holmes before him. There was a whole run there where I just took Chiefs running back and it was just money. But Jamal was my guy. But I loved Doug Baldwin every year. I would rock him. And he would get like 14 touchdowns a year. He was such a money player. Yeah. It's back when Russ used to throw moon balls.
We got to quickly go over to the Niners and Lions. Heartbreaking fashion for the Lions. Yep. Come out the gates hot. Score on their first 2 drives, go up on the Niners, up 17 at half. I mean, they completely dominated that first half of the game. It was unbelievable to watch. I mean, they were running all over them. The defense was holding Brock. And then just complete switcheroo on in the second half. Disappointed for Lions fans. Hey, give credit where credit's due. The 49ers made the adjustments they needed. Brock Purdy showed he is not just a game manager. He is a game timer. Is that even a thing?
Gamer, I think, is
what
they just
game timer. It is game time.
Game timer. He knows what time the game is.
I'm going to throw a hook shot because I'm that old. And yes, he is a gamer. Everyone's got to get off his back for saying he's not good and all that. He's good. Is he a spectacular, amazing, best quarterback? No, but he is a great quarterback who has now led your team as Mr. Irrelevant to a Super Bowl in your second year, having led him to the NFC Championship the year before. So this is one for Lions fans. If you're a 49er fan, you love the grit they've shown in the past 2 games, coming back against the Packers, coming back against the Lions. But it does make you nervous. Why are they starting off so shittily? Do they always have to play from behind? And can they afford that against a Chiefs team where the defense is spectacular? Because we know the Lions defense, that was their Achilles heel.
Yep.
Can they do that against a Chiefs team where their defense is stout?
Yeah, this is going to be wild. This is an offensive juggernaut versus a defensive lockdown team. And historically, defense wins championships, right? I mean, historically, you're going to say the defense is going to win. Now, the Niners don't theoretically have a bad defense either. They're supposed to be a stacked defense. The Lions just carved them up early. The run game was important for the Lions. Pacheco could be in for a big day. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I could go either way in that Super Bowl right now. We're not going to give our predictions, but I agree with everything you said. Brock Purdy giving me real Kirk Cousins vibes.
Game timer.
He's a game timer. He's accurate and he can move. Man, he's got some wheels on him. He showed that this game. I thought it was really impressive. Running.
I had to change one of the prop bets we got for next week based on how much running yards he got.
Oh man.
Over under 45 yards for Brock Purdy.
Will he have more than Lamar Jackson had? He's gonna have 4. He's gonna have 4 rushing yards next week. So yeah, I agree. Exciting to watch, and I think the right 2 teams are in there. Honestly, I thought it should have been the Ravens all along, and I don't know when the Chiefs the Chiefs weren't in the conversation because they just rounded into form. They rounded into form late, and in that regard, they deserve to be there. You know, when the Chiefs are playing like that, you expect them to win. So kudos to them. Let's look at the skill players real quick here, and then we'll give an update on our prop bets. So obviously, Lions side, you got Sam Laporta, rookie phenom, tight end, lit the league on fire, set the record books on fire for tight ends. Do you expect all that to continue going forward?
100%. With Ben Johnson coming back, all their starters are returning. I don't think any unrestricted free agents are going anywhere. I mean, Goff has shown that he can lead that offense, had his best year of his career. I expect big things from Laporta consistently, and so he's your top 3 tight end right there.
Yeah, he's filled in Hawkinson like 1 for 1. Just immediately took that spot. Even better. I'd say even more consistent. So I agree. The man from Highland, Illinois, 20 minutes from my hometown, very small town. I know Highland. I know what's up. That's where the Walmart was that we used to go hang out at Friday night.
Sweet. Everyday value.
Comparatively. So Laporta, stud, tight end. Obviously, Amon-Ra, monster, wide receiver, the greatest of all time.
The greatest.
Amon-Ra, he's in there. The number 2 receiver is a question mark. And I know you're mad at Josh Reynolds because he dropped a couple of passes, and he did. But he put together a solid postseason and a solid season overall. It's just not your guy long term. That's not the caliber player you want as your number 2.
Your number 2 guy cannot drop 2 of the most crucial catches of the game, and that'd be your number 2 guy. He had a fine season. It was very solid, but that's not your guy. They need to go out and get a number 2. I know you're okay. So now I'm going to flip the script on you. Jameson Williams. What is his value? Where do you see him going?
He's the big question mark, man, because he poured it on in the playoffs and looked pretty darn good. And he's shown those flashes of big play ability. And maybe that's all you need in it's really the number 3 pass target in that offense. Maybe that's all you need. A guy to take the top off the defense, Amon-Ra slicing underneath, Laporta slicing underneath. It's a decent formula if you can rely on him. Right. Jameson obviously has that jet sweep capability as well. I mean, he's a playmaker. He's just undisciplined and kind of a moron. And so you've just got to you got to decide as an organization, and we can't assess this, but you got to decide as an organization, can we get this guy to fit our system? Can he rein it in a little bit? Betting on games, for God's sake, that shit after his injury, and then he catches a pass for a 90-yard touchdown. What the hell he did? It's a crazy story, really. He's a crazy player,
Yeah. Okay,
but if he can get consistent, that's a money player.
Okay, so real quick, your Lions, you have the 6th most cap space coming into this offseason. Do you go after number 2? I know we were talking about they just need to draft entirely all defense. Again, their defense wasn't terrible, but it was definitely the Achilles heel, and it was the reason why they would lose some games. So they're clearly going to need to address things in the draft for defense. Do you go after a number 2 receiver if you're the Lions, or are you banking on Jameson Williams taking that next step? It'll be his 3rd year. Granted, hopefully this will be his first full season, but what do you do?
I get rid of Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds and whoever else is in there. I keep Jameson as
Donovan Peoples-Jones. Is that going to be the guy?
DPJ. I mean, he's a solid punt returner, honestly, so that's probably why they got him, which is good. But I get rid of those other 2, and I bring in a number 2, a legit number 2.
Tyler Boyd would be a great fit.
But the problem is Tyler Boyd's style is like Amon-Ra. You'd have a bunch of guys doing crossers the whole game. I think you need a big body guy.
At the same time, but that's not the Lions' offense to go deep down the field. They didn't. I mean, I'd be curious to see if they were one of the fewest in making those deep throws, and that could be the Jameson role. If you got the guys being squirrely in the middle, and then Jameson go. Yeah,
true. But I think I thought I'd read that Goff had pretty good stats deep balls this year, and they were throwing him to Khalif Raymond, and that's what I mean. It's what are we doing here? And Josh Reynolds, what are we doing here? I think Jameson is your deep threat. It'd be great if they had, and maybe Laporta is their big body guy, and you don't need another one. But I'm thinking of Pittman going in there, or even Evans, a veteran.
And if they got Mike Evans, wow.
If you got Amon-Ra and Pittman or Evans and Laporta, and then JMO is just a gadget guy, that's a nasty offense. And you're right, I agree. Full draft of defense. I go the entire draft defense, every single player.
Great offensive line, great running backs, great 1-2 punch. Quarterback. Okay, real quick. I know we're running low on time. Jared Goff, do you extend him this year or let his contract play out and then potentially re-sign him? What do you do, GM?
I think you extend him this year because
He won't get paid then.
yeah, well, he's going to get paid next year. Like every year, money's more. They have to pay more for quarterbacks,
Yeah.
And so your second year in the Lions, right? And the first year was good. Second year was really good. If they add a few more pieces in their draft, third year, okay.
This was his third.
But if they draft all defense, for instance, and all of a sudden their defense is like really strong, and they pick up, Pittman or somebody like that, you think Goff is going to like go backwards? I don't think so.
No,
I think they're running for a title, is what they're doing at that point.
And as we talked about all season long, it's crazy to think that there were 15 garbage quarterbacks who started this season, who started multiple games. And so if you have a top 15 guy, you hold on to him for dear life. And so I think that's probably what you're thinking with extending him now. It's like, yep, you stay, please. We got you.
Yeah, because if it's $30 million this year, it's going to be 35 next year and 40 the year after. And that's just the standard. Like the money just goes up,
Yeah.
So I would, and I wouldn't, but I certainly wouldn't guarantee a 4-year, $200 million deal or something stupid. Like,
yeah, probably like a 3-year guy.
I don't know. I'd make it as long as you want to, but I wouldn't have all that guaranteed money because I would give yourself some options because you do have Hendon Hooker, who was injured all year this year, but like a real promising prospect, rookie, will be second-year quarterback. Maybe there's something there. We'll see.
Okay. We're going to gloss over the 49ers for now. They're fantasy-wise, they've got studs. No real young
contract issues. The only question with them is like, can they keep everybody,
Right.
And I think Debo's the one that is maybe he's coming up or he's coming up next year. Maybe Ayuk's got another year at least. Like, I don't know. I think they can probably keep the nucleus mostly there.
Okay, so we can dive in next week again to the 49ers. Sorry to gloss over, but why don't we quickly go through the prop bets that we did last week coming into this one. So I did the AFC and you did the NFC, and then I did the combo. So we had higher number, Zay Flowers receiving yards, Pacheco rushing yards, Jackson rushing yards, or MVS receiving yards. We both went with Lamar Jackson. We were both wrong.
Yeah.
He only got 54. Zay Flowers had the big game, so he had 115. So we both missed there. Which will occur first? And we touched on this. So it's OBJ reception, Pacheco touchdown, Lamar interception, or any fumble. And you went with OBJ, which seemed smart at the time. If you had just flipped it and said, which will happen first in the fourth quarter?
Yeah. Or which will happen last in the game.
I went with Pacheco touchdown. That was the winner. So I was good on
There was a fumble on the next drive, by the way.
Yeah, there was. I was like, oh, yes. And then will there be a kneel down to end the game? You were correct by saying yes. I said no. And then lowest combination, and this was inclusive of all the games. So the lowest combination was Purdy incompletions and Montgomery rushes, Kelsey receptions and Laporta receptions, Jackson rush attempts or Goff interceptions and touchdowns, or Chiefs points scored. The highest was Purdy incompletions and Montgomery rushes. That was 26. You went with their tight end receptions, which seemed good because they hadn't really been getting Kelsey involved.
I thought Laporta was good for 5 or 6.
Fortunately for you,
they both went off.
Heavy Kelsey and Laporta. That was 20. Chiefs points scored was 17. And I went with Jackson rush attempts and Goff interceptions, touchdowns, and that was only 9, considering Lamar Jackson had 8 rush attempts and Goff only threw 1 touchdown. So I got that.
That was insane.
Give us the NFC, my friend.
All right, I had most total yards. The San Francisco wide receivers receiving yards. That ended up being 165. So that's not tight ends, not running backs. The Detroit wide receivers receiving, not tight ends, not running backs. That was 137. That's your pick. Christian McCaffrey all-purpose yards is 132. And Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of quiet, 56 all-purpose yards. So I won that one with San Francisco's wide receivers. Highest number. Total score of the game ended up being 65. Montgomery rush yards is what you went with, which was 93. Kittle receiving yards, which I went with because I guess I didn't think Debo was going to play, 27. That didn't do it. And Laporta receiving yards, which was 97, which just edged out your pick. We both missed that.
So close.
And then closest to the number 2, David Montgomery rush touchdowns, Debo touchdowns total, Purdy passing touchdowns, and Jared Goff interceptions. We both went with Purdy pass touchdowns because he's usually good for exactly 2. He had 1. Montgomery had 1 rushing touchdown. Those tied. We'll take the points.
We'll take it.
3-3 this week.
All right. That was good.
Yeah.
Really close.
Yeah. So overall, I am down 9-6.
9-6. And
But
we're
there's
coming
plenty
up
of
with
room because we're gonna have a monster Super Bowl extravaganza prop bets.
exactly. So we will come up with those props next week. So tune in for that. Kemper, we do not have time to go over our NFL Fantasy Playoff Challenge, which we will also go over next week. But things are getting dicey there because I went heavy Ravens and Niners. Kemper had to pivot after the Bills lost, and he went with Chiefs Niners. So I lost my multipliers. Kemp's on a lower multiplier, but now he has it. Anyway, it's going to get wild.
You're telling me there's a chance, and there's a chance.
There's a chance, folks. There's a chance. So lots of stuff coming up. Go Pro Bowl this weekend. Any bets? Who's going to win, Peyton or Eli?
I always go with Peyton.
Oh, how can you not go with Peyton? Screw you, Eli. I never. Screw Eli for life.
My brother will go with Eli every time.
So until next time, keep on folding. Don't take a drink.
Fold it.
Don't take a drink.